friends. I'm Dana Lewison, therapist and founder of the Empowerment Collective.
And I'm Dr. Roshni Patel. I'm a board-certified gynecologist and a menopause specialist.
Today, we're talking about mood swings, night sweats, brain fog. Hello, perimenopause.
Yes, in today's episode, we're going to cover some symptoms of perimenopause, the good, the bad, the awkward, and various treatment options, and a little bit on the unfortunate gaslighting that we've heard from so many of you and that we ourselves have experienced.
We're going to give you our Take Two prescription for how to handle some of these hurdles that we talk about today.
So, ladies, friends, welcome. And let's kick this off with a little history lesson. So, I wanted to share some context I think that could be helpful for all of us when we're talking about women's health care. Women generally have not been well studied in medicine. In fact, women were not required to be study participants in clinical medical research until about the early 90s. 1993. And I can't even say that now women represent 50% of participants in these studies, which is kind of crazy when you think about women being half of the population.
Right. I actually saw something today that women make up 60% of the population.
There you go. And, when you have women who are not represented in research or clinical studies, that impacts all of medicine, right? That impacts the treatment quality, the style of medicine that's practiced, and even who's doing the practicing, right? Like we don't have a lot of female physician leaders. We don't have a ton of leaders who are, female leaders at the forefront of healthcare and medicine in general.
Right. So how does that then begin? We're talking about perimenopause today, right? So with that being the way healthcare is being led and you have these male leaders, how's that impacting decisions that are being made today? How does that impact research? How does that impact, I walk into a doctor's office, how's that impacting me?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And it comes up for us. We see that answer in a couple of different ways. Like big picture, I think it's no secret if we look at the current political climate and the current administration, we see that, women's health and women's bodies are regulated in a completely different way than men or those that identify as male. In fact, I don't even know if male bodies are regulated.
Huh.
Interesting. Just something to ponder.
Right.
And then when you look at like actual healthcare, right? Like the day to day, like you or I being a patient walking in an office, sure, we might have a physician or a clinician taking care of us that identifies as a woman or that is a woman, but the tools in our toolkit are largely limited to what has been studied and prescribed for the male-centric view, right? It's not a secret that the style of medicine to date has been very closely aligned with patriarchy. And that's just been the style and the norm that's directed our everything from our research to our legislation to our training. And I'm not bashing men here. I love the men in my life. It's just that male-centric healthcare and male-centric medicine is not inclusive. You're missing around half of the population. So we're really at a disservice here.
Right. But what's baffling, and I know the answer to this, but I'm going to say it for our beautiful listeners. Dr. Patel, you're not telling me that there isn't research on women's bodies about menopause and perimenopause. How could that be?
Yeah, there's a paucity of research. The pendulum kind of swings back and forth in terms of like, what do we want to study? What do we not want to study? What is there money for and funding for, right? Because nothing is free. And what is there not funding for? So big picture, there is not a ton of high quality data on women's health. And then narrowing that down a little bit, there isn't great current information about perimenopause, menopause, even the treatments that we do have in the market, there's not a ton of head-to-head studies. The why is a really complex answer, but we do see the downstream effects, right? Like women are collectively having a moment, and I think hopefully things will start to change.
Right. One of the things you just said there was that we have outdated data. And this is something that I am seeing in the mental health field is I have, clients who will come to me and we'll talk about symptoms they're having and how they might all very much be hormone based. And then they'll go to their doctor and their doctor will say something gaslighting, to the effect of like, oh, that's in your head,
Mm.
essentially, is what they're saying if they don't actually use those words. I was told those words once, but maybe they're being told those words or not in this instance, but they're not then being taken seriously or being treated appropriately. And things like, oh, I can't take HRT because it will, give me breast cancer. Or I just feel like this outdated data also doesn't have the updated information based on information that we know, real science, right? It's like men, unfortunately, have pinpointed like, oh, this is one thing we saw. Or it makes me think of the women over 35 are considered, geriatric mothers based on a study that it was like, what? 7 women were in the population of who was studied, that they're not actually in today's standard data pools. Like, it wouldn't be considered a legit study. The population wasn't large enough. The data isn't actually valid, but we're still basing ideas, rules, prescriptions off of old, outdated data.
Yeah. And data that's outdated as we know, it hurts, clinical practice today. And it's also, things change, right? Like the definition, there's no great definition for perimenopause. There's no test for it. There's no real hard and fast criteria for it. So, but we're talking about it now more so than we were 5, 10, 15 years ago, right? So even if we have something like the WHI trial, which I'm not saying that is some information that we can use, but the conversation has changed now, right? Like in 2025, we're talking about perimenopause. So then, outdated or not, new studies need to reflect like what's happening in culture and society today. And yes, there's always a lag time, right? Because high quality research is going to take years and to even get to a conclusion. And it could take years and you might not even get to a conclusion. And that's the kind of risk that we have to take sometimes to get to those valid endpoints. It is a shame when patients are gaslit or told that that's all in their head, whether it's for something related to perimenopause or menopause, or whether it's, related to a true, like a mood disorder or a mental health concern, or someone struggling to manage their grief or their depression or their anxiety. And it takes a lot for people to go out there and even seek help. I'm curious about you, Dana, as a mental health practitioner, what would you suggest when individuals are sort of gaslit or told like it's all in your head,
I mean, I see it all the time. It is extremely frustrating.
Yeah.
Look, there are bad, just like with the way there are bad doctors, there are bad therapists,
Sure.
unfortunately. And I always tell clients, you need to advocate for yourself. And I say to them from the first session, look, if I'm not your person, that's okay.
Yeah.
My ego isn't involved. My ego should not be involved. If the whole purpose of this is to get you support and get you the help you need to communicate that, and I'll make sure that we match you with the right person.
Mm-hmm.
I build a team of people, have a psychiatrist that I like to refer people to. I have you as a doctor I like to refer people to. I find that my team of trusted providers, but we're not for everyone. And
Right.
I'm aware of that too. But I think you need to advocate for yourself. You can't expect to be listened to. You can't expect to be heard if you are not communicating what it is that you need. So if a doctor says to you, well, that's in your head, right? I, at one point, was having severe migraines, clearly hormonally caused,
Sure.
every single day, waking up and being told, yeah, I don't think that's not possible. One man doctor. Okay, great. So guess what? Why would I keep going back to see him? Go find someone else. You have to, it's exhausting and it's tiring. Yes, but you also have to do your research. Ask your friends, ask your community. Who do you see for this? Those mom Facebook groups they're rough and they can be exhausting when people are, posting pictures of their children's rashes, but they're also wonderful for that, right? Hey, I'm having this problem. You can post anonymously, right? Having this issue. Anyone else experienced it? Does someone have a specialist for this? And find your community, find your people, find your team of professionals that way as well.
Absolutely. I think that's such a great idea. And I do that myself. I encourage people, patients, women that I encounter to listen to yourself. Like if you know in your bones that something's off,
right?
It could be hormonal. It might not be. Like you might not even have an inkling, but you just feel off. Like trust yourself and find your people.
Right.
And it could start
Right.
small, like texting a friend, checking that mom group of who's doing what,
Right.
especially in navigating perimenopause, because a lot of the experience is subjective. And whether it's hot flashes, night sweats, whatever your symptom may be, it's still valid.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yep.
I'm sorry, I'm interrupting you.
No, this
But
is
that's
great.
the thing with perimenopause is the symptoms they're chaos.
Yep.
They're so wacky. I mean, itchy ears, right? Crawly skin. Like they're weird and wacky and they're not what people think of, right? It's not that stereotypical like hot flash.
Right.
So sometimes people don't even know that's what they're experiencing. Insomnia, anxiety, they overlap so much with mental health sometimes that the first thing people are seeking is like, let me find a therapist. Let me find this person. Let me find someone who has openings or someone who might take insurance, or you end up in circles when maybe you need is just an estrogen, but you don't even know that.
Right. And that's the other thing is sometimes there's space for a single intervention and sometimes you need more than one and you need more than one modality of treatment. You know what? I'm here for it. Everything and anything that a woman may need navigating this time. Actually at the Menopause Society, there was this funny slide about, women in menopause and the levels of estrogen. And it was just like all wackadoo. And that's the thing.
Crazy.
Your symptoms can change. They can evolve. There's a constellation of things that could happen. And then there's two sort of nuances that I like to build into that. One is, if it's related to your cycles or your hormones, we need to, unpack if hormones are right for you. And then the second thing is, if it's not related to hormones, we need to also figure out what's going on, right? Like every woman who comes in with itchy ears, could it be perimenopause? Sure. But could it be something else, right?
Right. No, exactly.
And that's why I think women have a tough time, more than a tough time. Women encounter a lot of difficulty and resistance in the current healthcare framework because perimenopause doesn't fit into a neat box. It takes time to kind of have those difficult conversations and do some workup and investigation in terms of like, is this skin condition more dermatological, or is this a symptom of low estrogen, or is this something, did you have an allergy to something, right? Like that takes time and patience and having a network of people. And currently American healthcare doesn't allow for that. So it's a lot easier to tell a woman, oh, no, you're wrong. It's all in your head. Just, take this pill and who knows what that pill is even for. And then, on to the next one. That whole exercise of unpacking the symptoms, exploring their root causes or exploring their etiologies and then treating them based on the woman in front of you. That's not how this system is set up. So I think that's another reason why women are having such a tough time.
Oh, and by the way, you have like 15 minutes to do that.
Oh, yeah.
Also
At best.
Scheduled appointment. Why do you think, and I think I know the answer, but why do you think it is so difficult for women to find doctors who will actually take them seriously when they're talking about perimenopause?
Yeah, I'll give the doctor's perspective. What has happened in healthcare is the way you work as a doctor, you're working not as autonomously as you might have thought you would. So you're working with an end goal in mind. You have to see a certain number of patients. You have to, do a certain number of procedures in order to be, a good employee in the system that you're in. So what happens is doctors end up doing, and not all doctors, I'm just making a big generalization here, doctors have to get into this, plug and play style of medicine, and something like perimenopause doesn't fit neatly into a 15-minute appointment with a, single prescription. No, because it's like a very big thing that needs to be unpacked. Right. So it's hard for women to find the doctors or the clinicians that are going to listen to them and help them explore what's going on, because the way you have to doctor now, doctoring as a verb, doesn't sync up with understanding what the patient is going through. And that's really unfortunate disconnect, right? Because like you go into medicine, I don't even know how much money I've spent becoming a doctor, but I've spent a lot of years. It's easier to count the years than the money because that'll just, we won't even go there.
No,
so I spent all this time, and when I found myself in that sort of system where I was like limited in terms of like what I could do for my patients or how much time I could spend with my patients, that to me was like my aha moment of like, I'm not doing it this way. Like, I am practicing medicine for women because I'm an OBGYN. This is how I need to do things. And there are very few doctors who are able to break away from a burn insurance system of medicine. So then you have a very small pool, and then you have a lot of women. And,
Mhm.
it's a supply and demand thing. Like, there's just not a ton of the majority of the doctors are employed by hospital systems or large multi-specialty groups that don't really allow for this relationship based care. It's more, plug and play, burn and churn, that sort of thing.
Right. But I'm also hearing from you that you've had to put in all this extra time and energy. You were just at a conference last week, which PS our listeners don't know. I know that your entire house flooded and you haven't been living at home either. No sick days. So you're also going above and beyond because you care and you want to approach this differently and you want to help women. Your average doctor isn't necessarily doing that, but it also sounds like you have to put in all that extra support and training. I know I've had to do that as well,
Sure.
but you work with, again, if it's 60%, 50% of the population, whatever, women, going through menopause, perimenopause, and not accessing care that is just everyone's trained to do as a
Yeah.
doctor. And you have to put in all this extra work to even be able to meet the needs of the patients. That's just extremely frustrating. Like from the patient
Yeah.
side, I know to get the care I've needed, it's the same thing. It's like, how many doctors are there that can treat or take women seriously who are going through perimenopause or menopause? And then, okay, fine. You finally find someone. It's like, great. We'll see you in 6 months,
Right.
and it'll be a 15-minute virtual appointment because we actually can't get you in. And then if you want to be seen in person, that's going to be another 8 months after that. It's extremely frustrating.
Yeah. I don't have a good answer in terms of how we can make it more accessible
Right. No,
on a
I don't. I
basis
know.
of scale. I wish it
I'm not
was.
putting that entire
Yeah.
question on you
I
of
was
like,
like,
fix the
fix
program.
the system.
But I
wish
think
I
there's
could.
like
Yeah.
in med school, right? I mean, you're not even right. I've heard there's no class on menopause. I mean, it's not required.
Yeah. So I didn't have I had very, very limited educational exposure to menopause care. I did not have the opportunity to clinically practice it until I was like a few years into private practice. And some people are interested in it and some people aren't, right? So like I did a general OBGYN residency. I had a couple of friends who were interested in pursuing urogynecology and doing a lot more of a surgical career focused on pelvic floor dysfunction and disorders. So they don't get to do a ton of obstetrics, right? Like they don't get involved too much in pregnancy and antepartum care and postpartum care.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the flip side, I had one or two colleagues who really wanted to go down that path and really focus their entire career on obstetrics and how we can take care of high risk pregnancies and what we can do for these women, etc. So it's really about what sort of career you want to craft as a physician, because it doesn't end after med school. It doesn't end
Right.
after residency. And menopause care is culturally starting to have a moment, but I hate to say it. I wonder if it hasn't been as popular in the past because a lot of it is office based and it's not procedure driven. Reimbursement is still a factor. Money is opportunity. If you're not, if you're walking out of med school and residency and you're, 6 figures in debt and how you're going to make money is a factor. And when
Right.
you're working
Right.
within the insurance framework, again, we go back to that plug and play medicine. So you are, and this is not controversial. We've known this for a long time. There's not enough people going into primary care. More med school graduates want to go into the higher paid specialties because they're procedure driven. So this, symptom of why women can't get good care is reflective of a larger problem. How we
Understood.
value, patient care and what's actually important.
Right.
Yeah.
No, understood. That makes a lot of sense. Do you think, given that perimenopause and menopause in general, because they're having a moment, do you think that might drive a change? Like you were at this at the Menopause Society conference. Do you feel like the society is getting bigger and there is going to be more access given that, like there's documentaries about it coming
Yeah.
out. There's, people are talking about it. When my mom was going through it, I'm sure it was hush. No one
Very
talked about the
hush. Yep.
change.
The change.
Now we're like, the change. Let's,
Yeah.
let's all wear
Now
pink and talk
we call
about
it
it.
cougar puberty. We're like
Right.
embracing it in a completely different way. Um,
Exactly.
but yeah, I mean, the Menopause Society conference was great. It was a really wonderful way to see how many people are getting more involved in this space. The Menopause Society is a great platform to gain access, education, and become certified in menopause care. And they put up a couple of statistics that membership has like doubled or tripled, and the number of certified providers has definitely gone up. I don't know the exact number, so I'm not going to put one out there. But to your question, yes, I do think there are starting to become more avenues for women to seek care. Unfortunately, some of those avenues are also a little questionable to me. So the elephant in the room is like the online platforms, things like, MIDI and Alloy, Winona, they're out there. And for women who live in certain states that, we have the luxury of living in New Jersey, women in certain states, they don't have good access to any care for 30, 50, 100 miles. It's outrageous. Yes, there is a time and a place for virtual care or for telehealth so that women can at least get the ball figuratively
Absolutely.
rolling, and see somebody who's actually interested in taking care of them. Some of these platforms, participate with commercial insurance. Some of them are completely based on private pay or cash pay. And that's a whole other conversation about the ethics involved in that. The shorter answer is yes, there is a growth in the clinician side, and that's a response to the demand. I think obviously we're not there yet. And I think for us to really get more well-trained, evidence-based clinicians out there, we really need to change how we're reimbursing quality care. That conversation needs to change.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's across the board for
Mm-hmm.
mental health as well, I would
Yeah.
say.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
yeah. Wow. So, well, I'm glad it was a successful conference for
Mm-hmm.
you. And so, for people who don't know as well, I think it's the Menopause Society website has a list of providers who have gone through the training that you've gone through and are right now, I think, the most qualified doctors to treat symptoms of perimenopause and menopause. And not saying that everyone on there is going to be wonderful. We can't vet everyone, but I know myself have experienced, anyway, but the list is there. So I guess the question is, what is your take two prescription for today? What would you advise?
Yeah, my advice to people out there navigating this time of life is find your people, find your community, whether it's a Facebook group or, they're showing a documentary about menopause. It doesn't have to be the answer. It doesn't have to be the endpoint, but it is just a step in the right direction for you to finding help, support, care, whatever it is you need. Another plug for the Menopause Society. We'll link it in our notes below about how patients and women in this space can find quality care. And to your point too, not every shoe fits. You sometimes you have to kiss a couple frogs, and that's okay.
Yes.
Is out there.
Right.
And there are, the Menopause Society isn't the end all be all. There are practitioners out there who are not certified, who are making a great connection with their patients. But again, it starts with build that community to find the support that you specifically need. So that's my take too.
I love it. Absolutely. And it helps you be and feel less isolated.
Absolutely.
Right.
Great
There's
point.
like nothing worse than feeling isolated and feeling other or feeling different, or you're going through something that no one's gone through. Again, that's the best part of those Facebook groups.
Yep.
When someone does say, like, oh, I've had insomnia for a month, and you have like 100 responses of people who also are like, I went through that. And, sometimes there's some crazy responses like, I stopped eating bananas and that, cured all. But sure, try it, right? Like anything can help.
Right.
But I love when community gets together to back a woman who's going through something. That's what we're there for, right? It takes
Absolutely.
a village, and we've lost that village mentality. So if Facebook can help it, like, sure, great.
Right.
So, but that part of, I agree with that. And then I also would say for my take two, advocating for yourself. If your doctor, your therapist, your friend, your mother, anybody says something that you don't agree with, or doesn't support you, or you're talking about a symptom and you feel like you're being gaslit or you're not being taken seriously, speak up.
Yep.
And I know that is hard. And there are certain populations that it's going to be harder for, and you're going to be gaslit more. Women of color, I see you. You are going to be gaslit more. You are not being heard, right? It starts in hospitals with when you're giving birth and talking about pain, right? Of course, when you're going through perimenopause, you're talking about brain fog. It's going to be ignored. Advocate for yourself, right? Find providers who are going to listen. Ask your community. Speak up. Yeah. Speak to your friends. Build that community that way. Build your team.
Absolutely. Build your team. I think this is a good way for us to open this conversation. I think we're going to keep having conversations around this.
Excellent. So, ladies, until next time, we have to run because we got patients to see.
Yep.
And when you're busy,
there are no sick days.
There are no sick days. So until next time.
Bye, everyone.
No Sick Days is for information and education only. It is not medical or mental health treatment. Listening to this podcast does not create a medical or therapeutic relationship. Please talk to a qualified professional for care that is right for you.